The sun hung high in the sky, casting a golden glow over an upscale neighborhood in Atlanta. It was one of those perfect summer afternoons where the air smelled of freshly cut grass and the distant hum of cicadas filled the silence. James Wilson, reclined in a cushioned lounge chair beside his sparkling new swimming pool, eyes closed, letting the warm breeze wash over him. After 15 years as a police officer, years of overtime shifts, skip vacations, and penny pinching, he'd finally done it. This stunning two-story house, with its pristine white exterior and a backyard pool that shimmered like a sheet of glass under the Georgia sun, was his. It wasn't just a house. It was a testament to everything he'd worked for, a dream his parents had never dared to imagine for themselves. James exhaled deeply, the tension of his old life melting away. The water lapped gently against the pool's edge, a soothing rhythm that felt like a reward. He'd spent his first week as a homeowner, arranging furniture, planting roses along the fence, and marveling at how the sunlight danced on the pool's surface. This was peace, real, tangible peace. For a man who'd spent over a decade chasing down trouble, it was a luxury he intended to savor. The peace, it seemed, wasn't in the cards today. The tranquility shattered as the wail of police sirens sliced through the air. James's eyes snapped open, his body instinctively tensing, a reflex honed from years on the force. 2 patrol cars screeched to a halt in front of his house, their tires kicking up dust on the manicured street. 4 officers stepped out, hands resting on their holsters, their faces a mix of caution and confusion as they approached his fence. "Sir," one of them called, a young officer with a buzz cut and a voice that carried authority. "We've received a report of a suspicious individual trespassing in this pool area. Mind if we take a look?" James sat up slowly, a familiar knot twisting in his stomach. He didn't need to ask who'd made the call. Through the corner of his eye, he caught a glimpse of her Linda Harris, his next-door neighbor, peeking through her lace curtains. Even from this distance, he could see the smug curve of her lips, the kind of smile that said she'd won before the game had even started. This wasn't the first time she'd pulled something like this, and he'd bet his badge it wouldn't be the last. Or so she thought. He stood, brushing off his shorts, and waved the officers over with a calm that belied the storm brewing inside him. "Come on in, fellas. No trouble here. Just a homeowner enjoying his pool. But I think I know who's got you running around today." The officers exchanged glances, sensing there was more to the story. As they stepped through the gate, James's mind drifted back to where it all began. Linda Harris had been a thorn in his side since the day he'd moved in, and this latest stunt was just the tip of the iceberg. Little did she know, she'd just lit the fuse on a reckoning she'd never see coming. 2 months earlier, James Wilson had pulled up to his new home in a rented moving truck, the engine rumbling as he parked in the driveway. The house stood like a beacon of achievement, 2 stories of elegant brick, wide windows framed in white, and a backyard that stretched into a paradise of green grass and blue water. After a decade and a half of protecting Atlanta's streets, dodging bullets, and breaking up bar fights, he'd finally carved out a piece of the American dream. His parents, who'd worked their fingers to the bone in low-paying jobs, had never owned anything more than a cramped apartment. This house was for them as much as it was for him. Even if they'd never see it. The first day was a blur of unpacking boxes and arranging furniture. James saved the backyard for last, stepping out to admire the pool that had sealed the deal. On this place, the previous owners had kept it immaculate crystal clear, with a sleek stone border that begged for summer barbecues. He was dragging a patio table into place when he felt it, eyes on him. Glancing up, he saw her Linda Harris standing at her second-floor window next door. She was a tall woman, her blonde hair pulled into a tight bun, a phone pressed to her ear as she stared down at him. James raised a hand in a friendly wave, figuring it was the neighborly thing to do. She didn't wave back. Instead, she vanished behind her curtains, leaving him with an odd feeling he couldn't shake the next day. While James was at the hardware store picking up paint for the guest room, his phone buzzed with a notification from his security camera. He'd installed it as a precaution. Old cop habits die hard. What he saw made his jaw tighten. Linda Harris, decked out in a designer swimsuit and carrying a luxury beach towel, strolled through his unlocked back gate like she owned the place. She tossed her towel onto one of his pool chairs, kicked off her sandals, and dipped her feet into the water, reclining with the confidence of a queen on her throne. James sped home, his truck's tires squealing as he pulled into the driveway. He found her still there, lounging with a glass of iced tea she must have brought from her own house. "Can I help you?" he asked, his voice steady but edged with irritation. Linda looked up, feigning surprise with a hand to her chest. "Oh, I thought you were the new pool maintenance man. The previous owners always let me use this pool. It's practically a neighborhood tradition." Her smile was sharp, condescending, and the way her eyes flicked over him carried an unspoken judgment. He knew that look. He'd seen it too many times in his years on the force, people sizing him up, deciding he didn't belong. "Ma'am," James said, channeling the calm he'd used to de-escalate 100 tense situations. "I'm not the maintenance man. I'm the new owner. I'd appreciate it if you'd ask permission before coming onto my property." Linda's face twisted, a flicker of disbelief crossing her features. "You? The owner?" She let out a nervous laugh, gesturing vaguely at him. "There must be some mistake. I know the realtor who handled this place, and she never mentioned, well..." She trailed off, leaving the racist implication hanging in the air like a bad smell. "There's no mistake, Mrs. Harris," James replied, his tone firm but professional. "This is my home, and you're trespassing. Please leave." She gathered her things with exaggerated slowness, muttering under her breath as she went. "We'll see about that," she said, just loud enough for him to hear. It wasn't a threat, it was a promise. James watched her saunter back to her house, her head held high, and knew this was only the beginning. He'd dealt with plenty of troublemakers in his career, but Linda Harris was a different breed. She wasn't just annoying, she was determined. And that made her dangerous. Over the next few days, James tried to settle into his routine. He painted the kitchen, hung family photos in the living room, and swam laps in his pool every evening. But Linda's presence loomed like a shadow. He caught her watching him from her window more than once, her phone always in hand, her expression unreadable. He told himself to ignore it, focus on the life he'd built. But deep down, he knew she wasn't done with him yet. And he was right. The trouble escalated faster than James could have predicted. It started one Saturday morning when he woke to the sound of voices and splashing. Rubbing sleep from his eyes, he peered out his bedroom window and couldn't believe what he saw. Linda Harris had turned his backyard into her personal playground. She'd brought 4 friends, women in designer swimsuits and oversized sunglasses, lounging around his pool like it was a private club. A cooler sat open on his patio table, spilling ice and cans of sparkling water, while a portable speaker blared pop music. James stepped onto the patio, arms crossed, his voice cutting through the chatter. "Ladies, you need to leave. This is private property." Linda waved a dismissive hand, barely glancing at him. "Oh, don't be difficult. We're just having a little fun. Besides, this pool barely gets any use. You're practically doing us a favor." Her friends shifted uncomfortably, one of them whispering. Linda said she had permission. The woman grabbed her bag and started inching toward the gate. "No permission here," James said, his tone even but unyielding. "Mrs. Harris, this is your final warning. Next time, I'm calling the police." "Go ahead," Linda sneered, standing up as the last of her friends scurried out. "I know everyone at the precinct. My husband plays golf with Captain Daniels. Good luck with that." She sauntered off, leaving a trail of wet footprints and a sinking feeling in James's gut. That afternoon, he installed 3 more security cameras, old habits from his days on the force kicking in. Document everything, he reminded himself. Within days, the footage proved its worth. Linda tested his gate at odd hours, peering through his windows like a nosy ghost. One clip even caught her fumbling with a key, likely a copy from the previous owner's, trying to let herself in while he was at the grocery store. The final straw came when he returned home to find 8 women in his backyard, sipping wine and flipping through novels for what Linda loudly declared was her book club. His pool chairs were strewn with their bags and a cheese platter set on his patio table. This time, James didn't hesitate. He dialed the precinct, and within minutes, 2 familiar faces arrived, Officers Davis and Martinez, his old colleagues. "My car, James," Davis said with a grin, then clocked. "The situation." "Oh, it's this kind of call." Linda switched gears instantly, tears welling up as she clutched her wine glass. "Officers, thank goodness you're here. This man's harassing us. We've always had pool privileges with the previous owners, and he's being completely unreasonable." Martinez raised an eyebrow, cutting her off. "Ma'am, Mr. Wilson was one of our best officers. If he says you're trespassing, you're trespassing. Let's go before we make this official." The women hurried out, Linda trailing behind with a scowl. As she passed James, she hissed, "This isn't over. You don't belong here, and I'll make sure everyone knows it." Her words hung heavy, a declaration of war. From there, Linda's campaign took a darker turn. Posts started popping up on the neighborhood Facebook group, anonymous complaints about suspicious activity at James's address. His morning newspaper vanished from the porch daily, the HOA inbox filled with reports of his unkempt yard, despite his lawn being pristine. One evening, he caught a whiff of something acrid near his rosebush. Closer inspection revealed patches of dead petals, the work of plant killer sprinkled under cover of darkness. James didn't flinch. He'd faced worse than a petty neighbor with a grudge. His cameras caught it all. Linda stealing his paper at dawn, snapping photos of his house at dusk, and creeping through his garden with a small canister in hand. He saved every clip, building a case as meticulously as he'd done in his cop days. At the monthly HOA meter, Linda made her boldest move yet. "I'm concerned about property values," she announced, shooting James a sidelong glance. "Some recent changes in the neighborhood have made my potential buyers uncomfortable." James stood, phone in hand, his voice calm but commanding. "Interesting you'd mention property values, Mrs. Harris. Care to explain this footage of you vandalizing my garden last night at 11:47 p.m.? The room fell silent as he played the video, crystal-clear images of Linda dousing his roses with poison. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Her face paled, but she recovered quickly. "I was checking for suspicious activity. Someone's been damaging properties around here." "Yes," James replied coolly, "and now we all know who that someone is." That night, he found his pool water cloudy with bubbles dish soap, dumped in while he'd been at the meeting. As he stared at the ruined water, a plan began to form. Linda wanted to play games with his pool? Fine. He'd give her exactly what she wanted, with a twist she'd never forget. James wasn't a man who acted on impulse. 15 years on the force had taught him patience, strategy, and the value of a well-laid trap. Linda Harris had pushed him too far, and as he watched the bubbles drift across his once pristine pool, he felt a spark of inspiration. He remembered a case from his old beta prank gone wrong, involving a non-toxic dye used in pool maintenance. It was harmless, temporary, and only activated when it mixed with certain chemicals found in high-end cosmetics and sunscreens, the kind Linda and her posse slathered on before their unauthorized dips, the kind that would turn their skin bright Unmistakable green for days. For the first time since this nightmare began, James smiled. Sometimes the best way to handle a bully wasn't to fight fire with fire. It was to fight fire with a perfectly legal, completely harmless, but absolutely unforgettable lesson in karma. He got to work. A quick online search confirmed the dye was still available, used by pros to detect leaks, safe for skin and water alike. The best part? It was invisible in the pool until it reacted with those specific chemicals. He ordered a bottle, paying extra for overnight shipping, and spent an evening testing it in a bucket with a tube of sunscreen he'd found abandoned on his pool chair. Linda's favorite brand, judging by the gold embossed label. The result was perfect, a vivid green. That would take at least a week to fade naturally. Not harmful, not permanent, just incredibly embarrassing. Timing was everything. Through the neighborhood grapevine, Mrs. Rodriguez from across the street loved a good chat. James learned Linda was planning another pool party that weekend, a small gathering to support local real estate values. She told everyone, which he knew was code for, "Let's make the new guy squirm." He prepared meticulously. 3 new cameras went up, hidden in angles that captured every inch of the pool area. He measured the dye to the manufacturer's exact specifications, ensuring the water stayed crystal clear and inviting to the naked eye. No one would suspect a thing. The night before, he spotted Linda in her backyard, phone in hand, gesturing toward his house. "Yes, he's usually gone all day on Saturdays," she said loudly enough for him to hear through his open window. "Trust me, it'll be fine. Bring your best swimsuit." James grinned to himself as he packed his car the next morning, making a show of tossing a duffel bag in the trunk. He drove off, letting Linda see him leave, then circled back and parked around the corner. Slipping through his side gate, he settled into his home office, a perfect vantage point overlooking the pool, with his phone ready to record. The security app pinged right on schedule. Linda was at it again, testing his back gate with a practiced ease. This time, though, James didn't feel the usual flare of anger. He leaned back in his chair, a cup of coffee in hand, and waited for karma to take the wheel. She'd walked into his trap, and all he had to do was watch it unfold. At precisely 2 p.m., Linda Harris made her grand entrance. She sashayed through James's gate like a queen claiming her kingdom, followed by 6 friends toting expensive beach bags and clad in designer swimsuits. They set up with practiced efficiency champagne, bottles clinking in a silver bucket, a spread of fancy snacks on his patio table, and a Bluetooth speaker crooning soft jazz. Linda raised her glass, her voice dripping with triumph. "Ladies, welcome to our Saturday sanctuary. What the new owner doesn't know won't hurt him." Her friends giggled nervously, but the promise of a private pool party on a sweltering Atlanta afternoon quickly drowned out their hesitation. One by one, they slathered on their high-end sunscreen, the exact brands James had tested, rubbing it into their arms and legs with care. Linda dove in first, making an elegant splash. "The water's perfect," she called, beckoning the others. Soon, they were all swimming, laughing, and sipping their drinks, oblivious to the chemical reaction brewing beneath the surface. It started subtly. Susan, a petite woman with a bob haircut, frowned at her arm. "Linda, is your skin looking different?" Under the bright sun, a faint green tint was spreading across her flesh. Linda glanced down at her own hands and let out a shriek that could have shattered glass. "What's happening?" Her pale skin was turning a vivid, unmistakable green like a lime caught in a blender. Panic erupted. Women scrambled out of the pool, screaming and grabbing their towels, their expensive makeup streaking green down. Their faces, their manicured hands looking like they'd been dipped in dye. "My daughter's wedding is next week," one wailed, staring at her now green legs. "I'm supposed to be in photos." Linda stood dripping and furious, her face contorted in rage. This was deliberate. She sputtered, spinning around. That's when she spotted one of James's cameras, its tiny red light blinking cheerfully from the fence. The exodus was a sight to behold. 6 green-tinted women sprinting through the neighborhood in their swimsuits, leaving wet footprints and stunned onlookers in their wake. James watched it all unfold on his phone, a grin spreading across his face. He edited the footage that night, starting with clips of Linda's previous trespassing antics, stealing his paper, poisoning his roses, then cutting to the pool party. Disaster, all set to the jazz they'd been playing. By morning, it was online, titled, "Linda Trespasses and Turns Green." Within hours, it had millions of views. Local news picked it up. "Trespassing Linda gets green with envy" trended everywhere. The comment sections exploded with people sharing their own Linda stories, fueling the viral fire. Her real estate agency couldn't ignore the fallout. Their social media drowned in green emoji taunts, and clients questioned if they could trust an agent who broke into private property. By Monday, they'd issued a statement. "We pride ourselves on respect for property rights. The actions in the video do not reflect our values." Linda tried damage control with a video of her own, but her mint-hued skin only made it worse. "I was just maintaining community standards," she insisted, her green face glowing under the lights like a frustrated wicked witch. It went viral for all the wrong reasons. James didn't say a word he didn't have to. He just waved cheerfully whenever he caught a green-tinted figure peeking from behind neighboring curtains. Linda's reign of terror ended as swiftly as it had escalated. Her lawyer sent James a cease and desist letter, demanding he remove the video. He responded with a compilation of her trespassing incidents, time-stamped and backed by police reports. The argument fizzled fast. A for sale sign sprouted in her yard soon after, and the neighborhood buzzed with relief. She started taking the long way around to avoid passing James's house, especially during his weekend pool parties. Those gatherings became a highlight. James hosted them, properly written invites, safety rules, and his famous grilled ribs. Kids splashed happily while parents chatted, forging bonds that hadn't existed before. "I've lived here 20 years, Tom from 2 doors down said, helping James set up for a barbecue. "And this is the first time I've really known my neighbors." The pool sparkled innocently in the background, a symbol of triumph. The new family in Linda's old house, an interracial couple with twin daughters, fit right in. The girls joined the swim team, and James helped them practice on weekends. Near his pool gate hung a small framed photo, a group of green figures running through the streets. "That's a reminder," he'd say with a smile. "That karma has a way of making a splash." As James floated in the cool embrace of his pool, the sun dipping low on the horizon, a quiet satisfaction settled over him. The water lapped gently against his skin, a stark contrast to the chaos Linda Harris had once brought to this very spot. He thought about the journey, the sleepless nights wondering if he'd made a mistake moving here, the sting of her words cutting deeper than he'd ever admit, and the slow burn of anger that had threatened to consume him. But now, with the neighborhood alive with laughter and the scent of grilled ribs wafting through the air, he felt something stronger than victory. It was peace, not the fragile kind he'd chased in those early days, but a hard-earned peace forged through patience and resolve. The lesson wasn't lost on him. Life, he'd learned, wasn't about avoiding the Lindas of the world. They'd always be there, lurking behind curtains or swinging their entitlement like a weapon. It was about how you faced them. James could have shouted, sued, or stormed, off in defeat, but instead, he'd chosen to stand his ground with a clever twist that let karma do the talking. And in doing so, he hadn't just reclaimed his pool, he built a community. Every splash from the kids, every shared story over a cold drink, reminded him that sometimes the best way to win isn't to destroy your enemy, but to rise above. them and lift others with you. If this tale of green-tinted justice and sweet, satisfying payback struck a chord with you, there's more where it came from. Subscribe to Legacy Stories, a channel dedicated to weaving tales of triumph, resilience, and the little moments that shape who we are. Hit that button, drop a comment with your own Linda story, and join us for more unforgettable narratives that prove the human spirit always finds a way to shine. Let's keep the stories flowing, because every legacy deserves to be told.